Hey guys, hopefully everyone is doing well. Today's target is to solve exercise number 5.4. This is fifth chapter, cost, profit, volume analysis. Writer is Noreen and McGraw-Hill is the publisher. And as usual, it should be our habit. We are going to discuss few factors, few elements which we have already discussed. First of all, we will see the fixed cost, the cost which will never be altered. Example was rent of the factory building. No matter you are working for 1 day, 2 day, 3 day or whole month, that cost will not be altered. So we have named it as fixed cost. Then we have discussed variable cost, which will be altered according to level of production. If you will increase your level of production, level of sales, cost will increase. If you will decrease your level of production, cost will decrease. One more example we can add is carriage paid on goods purchased. Carriage paid on goods purchased. So how you will tackle this variable cost with an example of carriage paid on goods purchased means more number of goods you will purchase, higher will be the rate of carriage, and less number of units you will buy, less amount of carriage. For example, you have hired a truck. The carriage which has been decided for number of unit is 1000, and suppose you have increased the number of units, you will have to the rate of carriage or amount of carriage would also be increased. Suppose you were willing to get 1000 number of units for which a small auto rickshaw was enough. So carriage you have decided suppose was 500, and now you want to purchase 3000 number of units for which small auto rickshaw was not enough. For that purpose you have hired a truck. Obviously carriage for an auto rickshaw will be less than that of carriage you will be paying for the truck. So more number of units you will buy, cost of carriage will also be increased. If you will decrease your number of units of goods to be bought, your amount of carriage would also be decreased. So it is totally dependent upon the level. Variable cost, what we have understood, increase the level of products or goods or number of unit, this variable cost will also increase. And if you will decrease the level of number of units to be sold out, your cost, variable cost will also decrease. So please try to understand. We have two examples now, electricity bill and carriage paid on goods purchase. Then we have discussed total cost, and as you know how we do calculate total cost by adding your fixed cost with the variable cost. This way you will get your total cost. Next we are familiar with contribution margin. And how do you calculate contribution margin? By subtracting your variable cost from sales. So this is your contribution margin, and how do you calculate it? By subtracting your variable cost from sales. And then you also calculate contribution margin per unit. Here it is not appearing. Contribution margin per unit you have also calculated. For that purpose, what you do? You will take sales but per unit sales, and then you will subtract your variable cost, but not exactly the variable cost. You will take per unit variable cost. All right. So contribution margin you have calculated per unit and total, and then you have seen contribution margin ratio. And how would you calculate contribution margin ratio? Contribution margins amount divided by sales. So it would be contribution margin ratio, which actually it was appearing over here, and I was willing to take the same amount instead of writing. Contribution margin ratio you have calculated how? By dividing margin over sales. So three concepts were related with contribution margin, and then you have calculated the break-even point. Break-even point is divided into two parts. Break-even point according to units. You will divide fixed cost by CM per unit. So break-even point in terms of unit was this. Again the same thing, fixed cost divided by per unit contribution margin. And then you have calculated your break-even point according to dollar. For that, fixed cost would be divided by CM ratio. So here you have calculated your break-even point according to dollars. You have divided your fixed cost by CM ratio, and contribution margin ratio you have calculated like this. Your margin would be divided by sales, with which you will get contribution margin ratio, and same CM ratio will be used to calculate break-even point. So I am going to discuss these 9 formulas again and again while solving each question of this exercise. I am willing to take these 9 formulas deep in your mind. So that is why we will discuss these factors again and again. And then we were having our contribution margin format statement, and hopefully everyone is having completely in his mind how to create contribution format income statement. Contribution format income statement we were making. So let me know. The first element which was involved was sales. We do subtract our variable cost, with which we will be able to get our contribution margin, and then again you will subtract your variable cost, with which you will be able to calculate your net margin. This net margin is answer, contribution margin is also answer, and upon here what do you write? Your number of units, and then you mention your per unit, and finally after per unit you get amount. And how do you calculate that amount? We should be writing over here by multiplying units with per unit. This way you will be able to calculate your amount. Come to our question. Here you can see that last month Harrison sold 40,000 number of units. So first thing we have got is number of units, and you are supposed to write your number of units first. Let me adjust it. Number of units sold, it is mentioned 40,000. Put 40,000 in unit column. And as we have discussed, number of units sold would always be equal to number of unit for variable cost. So you will write same number of unit in front of variable cost as well. Now let's see what was per unit. 3 lakh. Okay, per unit is not given. This is very important to understand. If per unit is not given, how would you calculate the amount? As for amount, you need to have units so that you can multiply it with per unit. Your units are available over here, but per unit cost is not available. This is interesting, and we will learn today a little bit new concept for calculation of amount. So I'm just adjusting it for making it visible as well. So amount you will be able to calculate by multiplying units with per unit. But here we have got a problem. We do not have per unit. So how would this amount be calculated? For that, he is helping us. Total amount is already been given. This is amount of sales 3 lakh. So you can directly put your 3 lakh amount over here. 3 lakh. Cost is also given, and you can see variable cost is 240,000. So half of our problem has been sorted out. 240,000, after which you will calculate your contribution margin, and for contribution margin you will subtract variable cost from sales. How much sales you have? That is 3 lakh, and you will subtract your variable cost, which is 2 lakh 40,000 present over here. This way you have calculated your contribution margin. And next, to see if variable cost is, if it's not variable cost, I have since copied it. So you will subtract fixed cost after that. Let's search fixed cost, and 45,000 is given as fixed cost. Write down, and now you are needed to calculate your net margin. Let me know how net margin would be calculated by subtracting your fixed cost from contribution margin. How much contribution margin is 60,000, and you will subtract fixed cost from it. This way you have calculated your net margin. Now what is the requirement? We have made our income statement without knowing the requirement, because we do know in this chapter contribution format income statement would definitely be made, and we have already completed it. What is contribution margin ratio? Since we have already written the formula, contribution margin ratio will be calculated by dividing your contribution margin over sales. This was your formula. By dividing contribution margin with its sales, you will get your contribution margin ratio. Here you have calculated your contribution margin, which is 60,000. So you are going to put 60,000 on numerator, and then you were supposed to divide it by sales. Sale was 33 lakh. So you will be putting 3 lakh in the denominator. So this way you will be calculating your contribution margin ratio. Upon calculator you will write 60,000 and will divide it by 3 lakh. So your first answer has been arrived. It is CM ratio which we have calculated. CM matlab means contribution margin. So CM ratio is being calculated. And here was your first requirement. What is company's contribution margin ratio? It is given 20%. You may write in terms of times. This is your correct answer, point 2. If you want to write it in terms of percentage, so what you will do? You will calculate percentage. Simply multiply your answer with 100. You will get your answer in terms of percentage. This is your CM ratio in terms of times, and answer will be correct if you will write in this way. And if you want to calculate your CM ratio but in terms of percentage, so what you will do? You will simply, what I have said, simply multiply your answer. This was your answer, and multiply it with 100. You will get your CM ratios answer in terms of percentage. So in this way you have calculated your first part of the question, CM ratio in terms of percentage. We are highlighting the answer. A part is solved. This was your first part of the question, and now we are going to see what second part is saying to us. Come over here. Estimate change in company's net operating income if it were to increase total sale by $1,500. So we have already done in first question by changing. What we will do, we will hire these headings which we had used to calculate our initial margin, and same headings will be used to calculate modified income statement, and we will carry this question over here. What he is asking to make or to calculate net operating income by increasing the sales. So come over here. We are going to change everything. Units are may or may not be mentioned, but here you will calculate your new income statement. Now let's see what you have to do. You have to increase your sale by 1500. Initial sale was 3 lakh, which is mentioned in above statement. As you can see, this was your initial sale 3 lakh, and you are going to add 1500 more number of unit. This means your value of sale will be increased. It would become like this. Now let me know, variable cost we have defined for so many times. If you will increase your number of goods to be sold out, your variable cost will also increase. There is direct relationship between variable cost and sales. Increase your level of sale, your variable cost will be increased. Decrease your level of sale, your variable cost will be decreased. Question is very simple. If you were selling $3 lakh, your amount of sale was 3 lakh. At that time, your variable cost was 240,000. Now what change has become? Your sale is now 3,15,000. What would be your variable cost? We understand that variable cost would be increased, but how much? For that, I am just giving you a formula. This is not exact formula, just for making you comfortable of to calculate your variable cost. Since we will be doing this for so many times in this chapter, so instead of thinking or instead of brainstorming, you can have a formula and you will always apply it. So what you will do, old variable cost, and you will divide it with old sales, and then you will multiply it with your new sale. This way you will be able to calculate your new variable cost. Alright, please read it again. To calculate new variable cost, you have a sort of desi formula. It is not present in any book, but for your comfort, I have just created it for you. Whenever you want to calculate your new variable cost, you will choose old variable cost, will divide it by old sales. Answer would be multiplied with new sales, and we will demonstrate it. What was your old variable cost? You can see over here. In previous part, you have written 240,000. In question, it was mentioned when old sale was 3 lakh, old variable cost was 240,000. So you are going to write 240,000 over here, and then come to the formula. Old variable cost divided by, we have written divided by old sales. When variable cost was 240,000, old sales was 3 lakh. Put 3 lakh and you will be putting a bracket upon it. Then you need to multiply with what? Your new sales. And new sale was mentioned over here. We were supposed to increase 1500 units. So new sale price is 3 lakh 1500. So you will multiply answer with 3 lakh 1500. Please see the statement. This is what we are going to write on calculator. 240,000 was the amount, and you will put bracket over here. Alright, now upon calculator, what you will write? First you will start the bracket. Upon calculator you will write 240,000, and then you will divide it with 3 lakh. Bracket will be closed, and you will multiply it with 3 lakh 1500. So 240,000 divided by 3 lakh multiplied by 3 lakh 1500. So you have calculated your variable cost. It is new variable cost. I am just requesting you to please note it down. You can take screenshot, save it. It would be so much helpful for you for calculation of new variable cost, because in this chapter we are going to calculate it for so many times. All right, our new variable cost has been arrived. This was 241 200, 2,41,200. And now it's time to calculate our contribution margin. How would we calculate? By subtracting variable cost from the sales. On calculator, you will write sales first. This is 3,15,000, and you will subtract your variable cost, which is 2,41,200. So here your contribution margin has arrived. Now again, there is a question. When you were selling 3 lakh rupees, your price, your total amount of sale was 3 lakh, and fixed cost was 45,000, and now you have increased your sales from 3 lakh to 3 lakh 1500. So you have increased your sales. Your fixed cost will increase or decrease? This is question for you. Let me answer. You can pause your lecture over here, prepare your answer, and then you can come back. Okay, hopefully some of you have correct answer. And what is correct answer? No matter if you are selling 3 lakh or you are selling 3 lakh 1500, your fixed cost will never be altered. You are working for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 10 days, or for a month, fixed cost will be fixed and it would not be altered. So it means when you were selling 3 lakh, your cost was 40,000, 45,000 fixed cost, and again now you are selling 3 lakh 1500. still fixed cost will be the same. This way you have put your fixed cost. It's time to calculate your net margin. How would you calculate it? By subtracting your fixed cost from contribution margin. So your contribution margin was 60,300 and you will subtract your fixed cost, which was 45,000, and in this way you have calculated your net margin. Answers are given here. You can see 20%. First part you have solved over here, where you have calculated your contribution margin ratio 20%, and here you have solved your second part where you have increased your sale to 1500 and contribution margin is mentioned over here is 15,300. This is your answer. And what you have done over here, he was asking to make a comparison with old and new sales. Estimate the change in company's net profit income. This was our question. So what change had come? Initially you were calculating your net margin when sale was 3 lakh, it was 15,000, and then you have calculated your new sales when your sale has been increased to 3 lakh 1500 and your net margin had become 15,300. So both answers you can see we have compared with the answers given in the book, 15,000 and 15,300. This is your new margin and this is your old margin 1500. So this way our question has been completed. It was really good time when we are sharing our thoughts, when we are sharing our knowledge, when we are sharing our tactics to solve or to tackle our question. I'm very thankful for your time. We have solved question number 5.4 right now. You can see it was 5.4, and we will meet soon again for solution of any other question. Up till then, please take care of yourself. If you have any query about the question, you may ask me directly. You can text, you can message, or you can comment over here. For the time being, we are taking break and we will see you soon again for the solution of any other question. Up till then, please permit me. Allah Hafiz.